approval of the agenda. John, were there any changes made to the agenda after it was posted?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Then I would ask for an approval of an agenda as presented.
So moved.
Paul Rochelle, I need a second.
Paul Manzioni, I'll second.
Okay, and any discussion? No discussion?
Tim Morgan, aye.
Frank Rich, aye.
Paul Rochelle, aye. Paul Manzioni, aye.
Thank you. Okay. New applications. I'd like to call case Z21-5 for Paul
Zusko.
Zugo. So I apologize in advance for not pronouncing your name properly. Okay. Agent for Greg Ward, map 12, lot 62, 122 Powder Mill Road. It's a special exception is requested from Article 300, Section 360 of the zoning ordinance to permit a residential garage to be the principal building on the lot. Paul, are you out there?
I am.
I apologize for not pronouncing your name correctly, but what are you going to do when you're Italian? Okay, you know.
Not the first time.
So, Paul, if you would like, you can start your presentation. I'm sorry.
We need to accept the application as complete first, Mr. Chair.
Give us a few minutes. We need to check your application, Paul, okay, to make sure that it's complete.
Is Mr. Zusko just on the phone, or is he, oh, we can see it, there he is. Good evening, sir.
Hi.
How you doing, Paul?
All right, good, thanks. How you doing? All right. Make a motion to accept case Z21-5 as complete.
Second that motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none? Okay, so, Paul, if you don't mind me, yes.
We need to take a vote on Mr. LaRochelle's motion as second.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Tim Morgan, aye.
Frank Rich, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye. Paul Manzioni, aye.
Okay, now, Paul, you may start.
All right, my name's Paul Zusko, and I'm representing Greg Ward, the homeowner, landowner. He's proposing a 4-lot subdivision on 22 plus minus acres. There's a detached garage that will fall on one of the lots. We need it to be the principal building until the lot is sold and someone builds a house on it. The whole subdivision is on road frontage, so it's 4 lots, so it has to be a major subdivision. That's about it.
Okay? You're finished, yes?
Yes.
Paul? Okay.
I think
All right.
the plans show it all.
Okay. Questions from the board? Money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Zusko, so on the plan that you provided, and then you've got to blow up, I think, of a section of it. So, and I think it's obvious, but I just want to ask to make sure, as we look at the plan to the far right, that on both the enlarged and the smaller version showing more lots, it's the first lot on the right that would be the newly created lot that would have only the garage on it for a structure. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And the only reason that the special exception is being required is because the landowner wants to divide this one parcel of 22 plus acres into these 4 separate acres. And when he creates this one particular lot, he's going to leave the garage on there. And that would technically violate zoning where you had a garage as the one and only structure on a lot. Is
Correct,
that right?
correct.
Okay. All right. So before doing that, if you get the special exception, then it would be permitted, then you could divide the thing and just have that on there as the only structure.
Right.
But all right, so one of the criteria that we have to consider is the architectural, style of the structure that will exist as a sole structure on the given lot. And you've provided photographs as part of your application. And I trust that, photo 1 depicts the actual garage, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So there are no other photographs of any other structures, and these lots haven't been established yet, but are there any other structures on what would be any of the other newly established lots so that we could just get an idea of the architectural style of the other structures to see how the garage compares?
Well, there's Greg's house. That's on lot 3 on the subdivision plan. And that's that, and there's a shed on that lot also. Other than that, that's it on this lot.
Okay. And so without us seeing the actual structures, can you tell us, just from a visual or architectural styling point of view, how does the garage compare with the other structures that are there, such as the owner's house?
Well, it's a garage that can take large vehicles, so it has a big garage door. He got a permit for a residential garage when he had it built. Compared to his house is a ranch, I believe. The neighbors, one lot over is a trailer, and right directly next door is a regular branch house. And if you go to the far left on the plan, there's just a residential house there, and Tom Barney's house across the street.
So, from what you're describing, then nothing really dramatically different about this garage compared to the style, the architectural design or style, size, or whatever of any of the other structures on the other lots?
I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, it's just one of the criteria that we have to look at. Says the architectural style, building size, building height, and exterior building materials of a private garage or workshop shall be visually compatible with other buildings in the neighborhood. So, not having gone out there and not having pictures of the other buildings, to your perspective, your view of them, and from what you've described, you would say that the architectural style of this garage in the photograph is pretty much compatible with in size and height and building materials and so forth as the other structures or most of the other structures?
Oh, like I said, it's larger than a regular garage.
Yeah, and that's fine, but the like the siding, the shape, you know, stuff like that, it just.
It's painted white. It's got a regular roof. Nothing out of the ordinary, really.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
It's been there since 2005. Right. This structure's been there since 2005, and it pretty much looks like it fits the neighborhood, in other words, like Mr. Manzioni was asking. It fits the neighborhood, fits the type and style of buildings around it. Is it visible from the other lots?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
What is photo 2 depicting? I see a car and woods. What is that just showing? It's a wooded lot?
Well, I apologize. I wasn't able to print out all of my stuff before because my power's been out since 1 o'clock. I'm down by the bay, so
Right.
I wasn't able to print out what I had submitted, which I would have done.
Okay, I'm gonna ask John, have you seen this area?
I think what it is it's like standing in front of the garage
Mhm.
and looking
Oh,
off to
and
the
that
right.
could be facing his house.
Yeah, where you can
Oh,
just.
I can see a structure in the woods.
Yeah, that's his house, through the woods.
Okay.
John, have you been in this Powder Hill area? Would you say that the homes are, this is in, this garage is in the same context of the other homes that are in the area?
Yeah, it's not out of place.
It's not out of place? Okay.
Tom Barney's across the street, he's got a big barn, next to his house, and people have garages and whatever as you go up and down the road. So it's not out of place.
Okay. The next time this comes up, it would be nice if we make sure that there are pictures of homes that are in the surrounding area, okay? Just as a matter of reference, so that we don't have Attorney Manzioni going crazy over here, okay? Making such ludicrous questions, the audience, okay? Thank you.
Not a problem.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions from any other board members?
I just have one or two more ludicrous questions. No, I just want to verify that the garage, he was saying it's a large, garage. So let me just get on the record, like I was trying to get on the record that it complies with, subsection A. Let's see if we can get on the record that it complies with subsection B, that no part of this garage is equipped for or will be used for habitation. Is that right, Paul?
For what?
Habitation, living space of any kind.
No.
Okay. And any other, like an attic or unfinished floor space will be restricted to storage or garage use only. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monzoni, for getting that on the record.
Thank you.
Tim, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Michael? No? Paul, anything more? No? Okay. All right, so, we're gonna go to public input. And I go with the.
In favor.
In favor. Okay, we're gonna go to public input, and we're gonna start off with, is there anyone in favor, of this applicant's, application for a special exception? If so, would that person speak now? Nobody? I'm gonna ask again, is there anyone in favor of this applicant's application for a special exception? Hearing none, I'm going to go to, is there anyone that is against or not in favor of this applicant's application in the public? I'm going to ask again, is there anyone in the public that is against or not in favor of this applicant? Please speak forward now. Hearing none, I'm going to close public input. Okay? So how would the board like to proceed? Okay, are we going to deliberate, or shall we go right to, is there any deliberation by any board member? If not,
I think the only question I would have, and I should have mentioned it earlier, was Mr. Young, Gene Young's comments from the Conservation Commission.
Yes.
We didn't mention anything about that. If he was satisfied with knowing that the existing building was a permitted garage that's what is happening here?
Yeah.
And he was satisfied with that afterwards? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, for bringing that up. Okay, so we've got that into the record too.
While we're in deliberation, and John can help clarify this too, and I think Mr. Zuzko referenced it a little bit. A house could be put on this lot even with that garage there. Is that right? So the building envelope of this lot, as it currently exists, is such that someone could buy it, and there's enough by way of setbacks and everything else that, and by way of septic and well, or, so this garage doesn't mess that up at all. So there's a potential that someone could buy this and build a house on this to go with the garage, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Part of the
I think,
subdivision process.
if I can say something, I think if you see on the plan, I put a proposed building site behind the garage. And there's a 4K area for septic.
Yeah, and that's required by the state to show that area on each of these lots because they're less than 5 acres.
Yes, okay, yeah.
See the proposed
I
building
do see it,
and the septic system? You see it there, Paul?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
and the existing dug well is gonna be abandoned,
Right.
it says.
All the setbacks are in place.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
See it? Yes, you're okay.
I do on this one. I thought it was an enlarged version of the entire subdivision plan, but it's,
No, I'm talking, it's on this one.
This one here, you see it,
The four lots.
close up on this one.
What are the four lots? Paul?
It shows it.
Shows it on the four lots. Go to that first, you'll see it.
It shows it on this one too.
It shows
it does, yeah, I saw it on that.
It
Yeah,
shows on.
yeah, good.
Okay, cool. Any more discussion, any more?
By the way, not that it would even be necessary, because by granting this application for special exception, once we grant it, no one ever has to build a house there. We're saying that the garage on that lot is fine.
Fine.
Right, can stay that way. But I think as an added bonus, the applicant is showing us, hey, and by the way, it may not just end up like this. Right, it's gonna probably be a house too. But if nobody ever put a house there, it would be okay once this is granted, if it gets granted. Right,
Have the option
right,
of putting a house there.
yeah,
They put it, yeah, which makes it, I would think, more valuable.
right,
Plus, they
exactly.
will have to go through a major plan overview with the planning board. With the planning board.
No,
Well, for the
Yes,
subdivision.
for the subdivision.
For the subdivision, right,
Yeah.
right, not to put a house there,
Not to
no.
put a house there,
Right.
but they're gonna have to do that for the subdivision.
Right,
subdivision.
right,
Correct.
exactly.
but if the subdivision is approved, they never have to go back.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Great. Well, I'm glad that gets clarified. Okay, so are we okay with going, if we're all done with the deliberation, shall we go to the worksheet? And, Tim, I would ask you to start, please.
A plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B. Yes.
Frank Rich, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Tony, I agree.
Mike, if you would,
The specific site is an appropriate location for the use. Yes.
Paul Manzioni, I agree, the use actually isn't changing.
I agree as well, Paul LaRochelle.
I agree. Frank Rich.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul?
Factual evidence is not found that the property value in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land uses. This use is really not incompatible. This is a residential area. I understand that, garages are consistent with the use for all of the surrounding lots, and so there's no evidence that property values in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land uses.
I agree as well.
I agree. Frank Rich, I agree for all the same reasons.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
There is no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable facts. In fact, there was no one that spoke up for or against.
Frank Rich, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
There is no undue nuisance or serious hazards to pedestrian vehicle traffic, including location, design of access, ways, or off-street parking. There's really no change in any of the structures that are in the area. So there is no undue nuisance or serious hazard that has been there, that hasn't been in existence from day one.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree. Nothing about creating this lot with a garage on it is going to have any impact on pedestrian or vehicular traffic.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree, and there's plenty of evidence of off-street parking, so nothing's changing.
Adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of proposed use or structure. The use and structure are not changing, and the utilities that are there remain, so I think it's appropriate.
I agree. Mike Hepworth.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Frank Rich, I agree.
Sewage. There is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply. Yes.
Paul Manzioni, I agree, because there isn't going to be any such use for this garage, so there's no need for this structure to have water supply or sewage disposal.
I agree for the same reasons. Paul LaRochelle.
I agree for the same reasons. Frank Rich.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
The proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of this ordinance and the intent of the master plan. The ordinance permits a structure such as this to be the sole structure on a lot because in this case it meets the criteria for that, particularly that there'll be no no use of habitation in the structure, and it is in keeping with the other buildings in the neighborhood.
I agree, Paul LaRochelle.
I agree. Frank Rich.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
Okay. And I would ask for a motion by the board.
I move that we approve application Z 21-05.
Okay, Tim Morgan moved.
I'll second.
Paul LaRochelle second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Tim Morgan, aye.
Frank Rich, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Mike Hepworth, aye.
Unanimous, 5-0. Paul? You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay?
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Lydia, thank you very much. This was very helpful. Okay? Kept me on task. I only screwed up twice.
A lot to read.
3 times, Paul LaRoche instead of LaRochelle.
LaRochelle. I was thinking of that conservative Paul LaRoche.
Thanks.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Paul. I'm sorry.
Was he at?
Wouldn't be the first time.
It's at the Gilman Museum across the street.
Been in what?
Yeah, it's right
Yes, that little brick building right at the corner.
on the corner of 140. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, John, if we ever get that again, if something like that, let's make sure that we have some pictures of just the surrounding areas. You can ask them for it. It makes it real simple instead of us having to have to put it on record, and then asking you to verify it and,
He's already gone out there and taken pictures and whatever.
No.
No, applicant.
But the applicant,
It sounded like he may have had more, and because he lost power, he didn't have anything to show us tonight.
Everything got messed up with him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Package,
just have the applicant do it, you know, it just makes it easier for, then we don't
A
have.
lot of trees went down on 28A and going up, Rand Hill Road and off the side of River Street, and they lost power.
Happened today?
No, this happened during the windstorm we had a few days ago.
Yeah, but they turned the power off today, I heard.
Yeah, they were replacing some poles,
Mike,
so they had it on, and then they had to turn it back off.
as you get more involved in this, and I've found this over the last 3, 4, 5 years now that I've been involved with the board, Paul and Tim and Paul, okay, try to make sure that things are on the record,
Right.
okay? So that if it ever gets questioned, we ask the appropriate questions. Sometimes it's very obvious to us, but we want to still get it on the record.
The applicant could put it on record.
Right.
Right.
For the applicant.
If it's not apparent in the application, then I like to get it from them, a representation, so it's on the record. So if anybody questions, how do you know they met the criteria? What do you know about the architectural style of the building? Well, I asked, does this meet it? And he said it did, you know, and,
Sometimes an applicant may say, why are they going there? We're trying to get it on the record, okay, to actually
There's no
help them,
question.
so that there is absolutely unequivocally no question that the criteria was met.
Sure.
Okay? Just,
Down there as well.
okay.
Paul is very thorough that way. He's not asking because he doesn't understand it. He's asking and getting it on record he does a very good job with that.
At first, I thought he was just, you know, being a, but then I realized, not only is he that, okay, but he was trying to do a service, okay?
And it's important, should a case end up in court,
right.
the judge is able to go back into the minutes, whatever, and see the intent, because that's one of the specific questions, what was the intent?
Now, by the way,
Criteria.
the other purpose of those questions is if the guy says, no, it isn't. It actually, all the other places out there are magnificently beautiful. They're all brand new, you know, gorgeous, new architectural. This thing here is a dilapidated looking thing. Now we say, okay, well, we got a problem here, maybe, you know? So the neighbors are gonna raise hell if this thing is allowed, and people are gonna sue us and say, why'd you allow it? But if one of the things he said was there's a trailer on one lot, and this other thing is a ranch, and, you know, that was all very helpful information for me to put in perspective. But if he said, well, now that you're asking, you know, all the other ones are all, you know, 15,000 square foot homes, and they're all gorgeous, and I just want this thing to sit there, we might say, well, when the public starts complaining at the public hearing session, we're gonna know why, you know, so it works both ways, you know.
A generic white garage like that that would only be an unsuitable building if the others around it were much nicer, is that?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's not even a value judgment in the sense, right, height, architect, if you look.
Siding.
Right, so if you look at the criteria for us that it says, if, we may grant it if these things exist, and you look at it, and it talks about height, architectural styling, stuff like that. So if it was gonna stand out like a sore thumb and screw up the neighborhood, affect property values and aesthetics and all that stuff, we have an obligation to take that into consideration, because all the other property owners have a right, as well as this property owner, to seek value in their land, you know?
Looks like you could put an 18-wheeler in that, that's a huge door garage.
Well, that's true, yeah.
What would have been interesting, let's just say now the subdivision, and let's say there were some mega homes there. Okay, now this thing is standing by itself.
Right.
That would have been interesting if we had public input saying, this thing is
It's an eyesore.
out of character,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. But you got a trailer next door, okay? The other houses are ranches.
And that
We
was
don't
the
have that.
information they
But
have.
if they were mega mansions and people wanted to say, well, even though it was already, that house was there since 2005, but now they're changing it, we might have to.
The other lots that were subdivided, those were intended for residential purposes?
Yeah,
So that will have to be addressed when each of the
Anyway.
buildings is placed there, how they will fit the area, I guess.
No, they don't, they can do whatever they want. Yeah, the only reason that the ZBA gets involved in someone's architectural styling or what it looks like is because they're asking to make it the only building on a lot, which otherwise is not allowed.
And that is,
You know?
it's part of the criteria of the special exception.
And in fact, if he wasn't subdividing this property in a way that left that garage on the lot by itself, it could stay there. He's grandfathered, there's nothing wrong with that garage as it exists. It's only because he's making a brand new lot, and that garage is gonna be the only structure on it. And now we don't allow that in Alton to have a garage as the only structure on a lot unless you've got a special exception.
Do we know what the use is of that garage? What's the commercial garage to me?
Did have business in it, and it's not gonna continue.
Okay.
Is that gonna weld in?
I don't know about that, but I know that he's not gonna continue as a repair shop. What was it?
That's,
Repair shop, that's.
they used to be a repair shop, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
All right, cool. All right, moving right along, do we have any previous business?
No,
What a shame.
and
Okay,
we don't have any new business.
Well, I want to beg the differ on that for just 1 second.
Okay.
And it ties in with the approval of the minutes, but it's not really an approval issue. It's more of a comment, as far as the new business goes. The minutes, of course, are, very well done. When we get to that, I didn't see anything that needed to be changed, but there may be, and we'll get to the approval. But here's my point. When we go through the criteria in the minutes, it'll say, like, for example, in this first one, you know, Mr. Manzioni stated there is no undue nuisance or serious hazard. So it reiterates verbatim what that criterion is, right? And then it says, the board agreed, you know, and it doesn't necessarily say by what number or by whom. And in this day of roll call vote, it doesn't specify name, you know, I, or I and no, or whatever. So that, to me, raised a question. And then the other thing is this. We all learned, and the reason we talk, and this is for Mike as well, is when you know, sometimes it's totally appropriate, and if that's all you want to say is, I agree, or, and just look at that criteria and say yes, and move on, that's totally appropriate. But one of the things we discussed and learned is, if you can articulate the reason why you agree, and again, put it on the record, then the applicant, you know, down the road, if anybody ever takes this to court or whatever, they go, why did the board think there wasn't any nuisance to vehicular traffic or pedestrian traffic? We say, there's no nuisance. This thing has got nothing to do with vehicular traffic. It's way in the woods. It doesn't affect parking or street. And we put that on the record. Someone looking at it is going to say, oh, that's why they said there was no nuisance. They're not going to find that in the minutes, though, the way the minutes are currently being drafted. And so they'll have it in the recording. If they go to the recording, they'll hear us. So I'm just wondering, you know, we used to get minutes that were almost a verbatim transcript, which were unbelievable, but there was so much material. I like the condensed version of the minutes because they're easier to work with, and I think they make, but I'm just saying, I think to achieve a little bit more of a balance, I'm wondering if the minutes should at least state, you know, Tim Morgan says it won't create a nuisance for vehicular traffic because it's in the woods and there's no traffic around it. You know, just like a summary statement of what you're saying, so that if we look at the minutes, it's not that the board agreed, it's why you said it and why Frank said it and so forth. If we just get a little more detail on that from the recording, I think it might be, because it'll make the minutes that much more informative, you know, because most people, when they check on something, they don't go to the recording necessarily. They go to the minutes first, you know, and the minutes might be enough to cause somebody to say, oh, okay, you know, I'm good with it or something. So it's just a suggestion. But I do like the condensed version. It is a great idea to do that, I think, but
many times what I try to do, okay, is because typically I love the way either Tim articulates it or you articulate it, and I like to say, and I think you've said it too, Paul, for all the same reasons.
yeah, yes.
Okay, because I want it to be, I believe that I don't want to reiterate
No,
those same reasons.
right.
I just want to say, for all those same reasons,
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, I
And I
agree
think-
for those same reasons as well.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
I've heard you say it a lot, Paul. Okay, I've heard all of us say it a lot. Okay, but
Instead of saying it all over again,
Saying-
it's just sentiments of what you felt as well. So saying that,
again, that just reinforces, as far as I'm concerned, if anybody ever really went to the minutes, well, there were three members that said for all the same reasons they agreed, and Mr. Manzioni or Mr. Morgan had articulated it, and there were two others that said for all those same reasons,
Yeah,
you know, blah, 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 blah.
right,
You know?
yeah,
it would be just like somebody, if someone said they disagreed. They
Right.
would have to have,
right.
they would have to have an explanation.
It'd be good to have the
An
reason.
explanation.
But I've gone and represented people in other, for other towns, and I've used the minutes of ZBA meetings in other towns. And I know in doing that work, if the minutes contain a little more detailed information as to why someone said yes or no to a certain criterion, it's useful to me, and it saves the aggravation of having to get the recording. Nowadays, you get them electronically anyway, I guess. They email them to you and you can listen to them on your computer. But still, I mean, so I'm saying I do like the condensed minutes. I do. I think it's a great way to go, and it makes it easier for everybody. But I think when we get to the voting, I would just suggest or recommend that they include a few reasons, then we have it on the
It's a
record.
good idea, actually.
I like it.
I remember it used to be.
Yeah, well, right. I mean,
I remember seeing it, and it was explanations.
Those notes from copious.
unbelievable. You'd get like almost verbatim transcript, like a court reporter, I mean, they would, and that was great too, but it was a lot.
Then I'm reminded that Mr. Morgan would have 2 or 3 commas and periods and semicolons, okay, to refrain, to correct. I didn't even know what the hell he was talking about.
Anyway, all right.
All right.
Spelling.
So, Paul, were you concerned, was that under previous business or new?
I did it under new business.
That was under new business?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, if there's nothing more on those two, approval of minutes of the ZBA meeting on February 4th. I'm going to recluse myself since I was not here, okay? I was excused.
I didn't find any semicolons out of place.
Wow.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, February 4th, 2021.
Okay, Mike Hepworth seconds it, okay? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Tim?
Tim Morgan, aye.
Frank Rich? Aye. Or do I excuse myself?
You excuse yourself.
Frank Rich, I'd excuse myself from this.
Staying.
Sustained.
Paul Larshell, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Okay, so it's approved. Correspondence.
The only thing resembling correspondence is a letter I put in your file that I had submitted to the selectmen about Mexican dealings. To be out during that time period.
And,
Secretary, so.
that's-
And did we get big bonuses as a result?
I don't know.
I'm glad you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you wrote the letter. I came in to
Nice.
to do something earlier in the week, last week, when you first wrote it, and it was in my thing, so I took it, and I was glad you wrote it. That's
very appropriate.
Yeah.
And very appropriate, and, if you would relay back to the personnel group, all of them, but especially Amelia and Jessica for their great work, we would be appreciative, because
They've done an outstanding job.
And it's a shame, it's a shame that some people may not note that, okay, in this town, but,
There's been a lot of people, and in this, especially in this building, that have stepped up to the plate, and during this COVID-19 crisis, and you picked up and done a lot of work, and as well as Josh. Has done an exceptional job, so there's been a lot, and it's been noticed, and definitely.
nice job. Now, John, we all know you need a lot of help anyways, period, even in good times, okay,
I gotta make sure my wife makes sure I got my skivvies on right.
It's nice that you recognize that these people have helped you out, Seriously, thank you, John. Great job, all of you. Amelia, thank you. Please share it with Josh and Jessica and others in the group, We got a good group, and there are a lot of towns that I go to and cities that I go to, all right? I can tell you it's just terrible, It's this entitlement of why are you here, just it's trouble, but not in this town, or at least I've never.
No, and that's the comments that I get regularly, and not only here in the building, but when I'm out in the field, that people are, this is a very easy town to do business in.
Yeah, easy to talk to, professional.
I've worked in a couple of other towns, filling in here and there that were, one town, the police chief would go to the selectmen's meeting to break up the fights, because the fights would be between the selectmen.
Right.
You could sit in one end of the building and listen to the selectmen screaming at each other in an open meeting. It was definitely not someplace I wanted to continue.
That gets out of hand.
This is great.
I remember one time watching some congressional, years ago when I was younger, and I was watching a congressional thing on TV one time, and in the old days, and one guy was saying, I just want to say to my great colleague from the magnificent state of Iowa, my esteemed and wonderful Congressman so-and-so and his great wisdom, but I disagree entirely with everything he said. And I remember saying to my father, I was like, why does he talk like that? Why does he say my esteemed? And he goes, because if he didn't, he'd stand up and say, that no good, SOB, blah, 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 and then it would break down into fisticuffs, and nothing would ever get done. So the importance of governing is to govern with decorum, and with it, just like in a courtroom, rules of evidence, you have to sit there quietly while the other side stands up and talks about all the BS in the world, and you go, none of that argument is actual, and you just have to sit and take it until it's your turn to speak. But if we didn't have that structure, you'd be standing up going, that lying, no good, and it would all break down, and there'd be no system of anything. Nothing would get done. All we do is fight all the time. So the decorum and the process and the structure, like Robert's rules or whatever else we do, are all so essential to make things happen.
You ever watch the Taiwanese legislature and the...
Yeah, they throw chairs at each other. And you can understand how it could get to that point if there isn't, you've got a sergeant at arms, you got a call to order, and everybody's got to behave themselves, otherwise chaos. Can't get anything done. But anyway, sorry, we're still on the record. Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Oh. Do I have a second?
You do.
Favor?
Tim Morgan, aye.
Frank Rich? Aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Mike Hepworth, aye.
Good.
Done deal.
Yes.
Aye. I do remember one time I was at a meeting, okay, now that we're off the record.
Yeah.